Well, hello, everybody. Peter Greenberg here. Happy New Year, or perhaps more appropriately, let me wish you all a happier New Year. I can still do that on January 6th, our first Facebook Live global travel update of the year 2022. Hope you're surviving already and plan to do better as the days and months grow longer. And of course, you can always email me your questions today or send them in right now. We'll get to those in a little bit. Just a little bit of housekeeping, of course. Our radio show airs every Saturday. Eye on Travel on CBS. If you can't find a market in your neighborhood, that's okay. We also stream it live. Just go to our website, petergreenberg.com, hit the radio icon, and it will be live streamed starting at 10:05 a.m. Eastern Time until 1 p.m. Eastern Time every Saturday. Lots of stuff to talk about today. What a surprise. We're still recovering from that chaos of December known as flight cancellations and delays. Anybody want to guess how many there were since Christmas Eve through today? Over 20,000 flight cancellations and delays. 1,500 yesterday, another 1,500 today. Is it ever going to get better? The answer is it will, and I'll explain what was going on. You know, every month, even pre-pandemic, airlines are challenged the last 10 days of every month in terms of putting together flight crews, both in the cockpit and the cabin. Why is that? It's done by seniority. And you have a lot of flight crews in normal times that have flown, the senior flight crews that have flown their minimum number of hours for the month, and they don't want to fly anymore. You also have the younger flight crews in less seniority levels that have flown all the hours that they're allowed to fly, and they can't fly anymore. Now, let's compound that problem with low staffing levels to begin with, positive COVID-19 tests, and let's not forget weather. And now you have the perfect storm, which is what we're seeing even today, 3 or 4 days after everybody supposedly have returned from their Christmas and New Year's holidays. Is it going to get better? It is, because this is the first quarter, and traditionally and historically the first quarter, very few people travel. In fact, traffic, if you look at forward-looking bookings, has plummeted. So have airfares. I'll get to that in a little bit. But first, I want to share with you, this is my attempt at humor today. Someone posted this. I had to share it with you because with all the flights being canceled, you take a look at Denver's airport. They got hit hard. Washington, Reagan, very hard at one point last week. 27% of their flights were either canceled or delayed. And you can't look at this as in a vacuum. Once you delay or cancel a flight there, it moves westward and everything gets canceled or delayed. That gives you an idea of what we're talking about. But somebody posted this picture today, and please forgive me, I'm now going to share it with you. There it is. This is from Liverpool. All flights from the John Lennon Airport are canceled. Imagine all the people. All right, I warned you. That's it. Let's go back. Sorry about that. Anyway, is it going to get better? It is. The airlines are working to stabilize their schedules 2 different ways. 1, they're pulling flights permanently off the schedule, number 1. 2, they're now getting both flight crews and planes back in sequence to be where they're supposed to be to begin with. And number 3, or actually is a third, not a lot of people are traveling. So that's the bad news. Let me give you the good news. The good news is between now and April 15th is an incredible buyer's market. Anywhere you want to go in the United States. So, for example, next Friday, I booked a flight from New York to Los Angeles. My airfare, $108. A couple of days later, I'm flying from Dallas to LaGuardia. My airfare on American, not making this up, $32. Double digits. The cab ride to the airport is more expensive. Now, that's not just next week. You're going to see those prices, with the exception perhaps of President's Day weekend, staying at those low levels through April 15th. So I'm not saying you need to fly next week or the week after, but look at the fares beyond that and book them now through April 15th. You will not be disappointed. You will see similar savings happening in Europe. Why? Because travel there has really plummeted. For this month and next, just to give you an example, Lufthansa has already announced they have canceled 33,000 flights for the next month. Let's do the math. That's more than 1,000 flights a day that will not be operating. That'll give you an idea of how much travel has plummeted. And you can take advantage of that if you plan properly. Now, speaking of planning properly, We have all the warnings from the State Department. We have all the warnings from the CDC. I'm going to get to the cruise lines in a second, but I love this one from the State Department. I'm going to quote. Now, leave it to our State Department to embrace the obvious. Here's the quote. State Department says Americans should make contingency plans if traveling internationally. I hate to tell you this. I make contingency plans if I take the 6 train on Lexington Avenue. Of course you should make contingency plans. Plan A never works anyway. But I love the fact that our State Department, working hard for us, is telling us something that we already knew 25 years ago. Does that mean you shouldn't travel? No. That means you shouldn't necessarily travel thinking that you're going to have a seamless transition from country A to B to C to D the way we like to travel. Very few of us, when we travel internationally, just go from A to B and back. We like to add on other countries. That's going to become more difficult until the latest variant winds its way through. So yes, you do want to make contingency plans. One of the ways you make a contingency plan, which the State Department won't tell you, but I will, is fly on a U.S. carrier. Why? Because if something gets wrong and you have to cancel, or they cancel, you're going to get a refund. That is not the case with a lot of foreign carriers who are still arrogantly saying that they're not covered by U.S. rules, when in fact they are. And they just want to delay the process. So that's number one. Number two, don't depend on online information to tell you where the rules have been changing in terms of testing, protocols, quarantine, or other rules and restrictions. This is the time, if there's ever been a time to develop a relationship with a travel advisor or a travel agent, they know what's going on. They proved their worth during the pandemic. And the last time I looked, we're still in a pandemic. So have a conversation. Don't just depend on online, even from the consulates of those countries. Talk to a human being. I encourage you to do that. Okay, now let's talk about the other, they're calling them warnings. Officially, they're recommendations from the CDC about folks who want to take a cruise. The latest CDC recommendation is you should avoid taking a cruise at all, if at all possible, regardless of your vaccination status. Really? Look, I'm not promoting the cruise industry, but I do want to present you with some facts. The cruise lines right now are required by law and regulation to report any disease on board. Remember the norovirus? They all had to report. They're the only part of the industry that does that. Restaurants don't have to do it. Hotels don't have to do it. Businesses don't. Cruise lines do. Fine. Right now, the CDC is monitoring about 93 separate cruise ships that have reported at least one COVID case. What are these COVID cases? Well, considering the fact that everybody on these ships is vaccinated by rule, that includes the crew and the officers, that means that all these cases are breakthrough cases. They're mild. The symptoms usually, if you're even symptomatic at all, but if you are symptomatic, they usually go away in 2 to 3 days. The ships are very, very good at isolating and quarantining and contact tracing. Now let's look at the numbers. The most number of cases I saw last week on board one Royal Caribbean ship was 48. And everyone was reporting it as an outbreak. There were 4,300 passengers on board. That is not an outbreak. That is 1.5% case factor, right? Caseload on one ship. Now, since these ships are small communities anyway, let's try to translate that into America. There's not a single town, village, city in America that wouldn't die, no pun intended, for a 1.5% caseload. It's way above that. You know that. They're all spiking. And why are they spiking? Because those caseloads in America are not with vaccinated people. They're with unvaccinated people. So let's go back now to the cruise ships. You're dealing with an average of 1.5% of the total number of people on board testing positive, and they're already vaccinated. So should that keep you from taking a cruise? I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on Facebook, TV, or radio, but I will tell you, you should consult your doctor and then make a reasoned decision. I can also tell you that while certain cruise lines like Norwegian Caribbean Norwegian Cruise Lines, I keep calling them Norwegian Caribbean because that's how I remember them, but it is Norwegian Cruise Lines. They canceled 8 different itineraries yesterday of some of their ships, not because of their caseload, but because the ports at which they were going were having a knee-jerk reaction and not letting them even land there. Now, please be advised of something else. Way before the pandemic, anytime you take a cruise, as part and parcel of the contract that you signed when you got your cabin, was the cruise line's right to either substitute ports or cancel them based on acts of God and force majeure and weather. Well, this certainly qualifies. So there are a lot of cruises out there that are operating. 240 ships, by the way, are continuing their itineraries, but that doesn't necessarily mean they won't be substituting ports based on the behavior of the ports, not the behavior of the ships. So we'll be watching this carefully to see if there are going to be huge, massive cancellations on passengers. So far, there haven't been. Most of the people who are on these cruises are repeat cruisers. They're loyal to their ships. They waited 20 months to get back to sea. They're all vaccinated. So they're rolling the dice and taking a calculated risk and going. The new cruisers, people who've never taken a cruise, which is a majority of Americans, they're going, oh, no, not me. And the words Petri dish are coming out again. Let's see what happens. The anecdotal information and evidence seems to indicate that the Omicron variant is moving swiftly to extinguish itself in the next 6 to 8 weeks. And if that's the case, it proves the notion, at least, that while we may not be able to eradicate the virus, we can manage it and get on with our lives. So more on that as we learn those numbers and as we hear more from the scientists. But the early indications are that people are taking their cruises and they may be going to different ports. So there's the story there. I'd love to hear from you guys to hear what you're thinking as well. You know how to reach me right here online. Now, one thing I got to share with you, because this is the one that gets me angry, and I will talk to you about that as soon as I can find the story here. Here it is. Does anybody remember the movie The Beach with Leonardo DiCaprio? Okay. Well, it was actually shot in Thailand on a beach called Maya Bay, which was so polluted, and I'm going to tell you why, that the government of Thailand finally had no choice. They closed it. They locked it up. Well, they just reopened after 4 years. And that's a good thing. But let's talk about why it got there in the first place. It got there in the first place because people are arrogant, they're greedy, and quite frankly, they're stupid. Let's talk about that triumvirate of bad news. There are resorts on Pattaya Beach, very popular beach in Thailand, that have 200 to 300 rooms. But there's a law in Thailand that says anytime you have more than 61 units, you have to have a system for gray water, for black water. You cannot pump raw sewage into the ocean. You have to provide employee housing. There are a lot of things you have to do. And yet all these hotels in Pattaya Beach for years, despite that law, were pumping raw sewage into the bay, which meant that on certain days, they had to close the bay as well. It was not swimmable for all the obvious, really bad reasons. Well, how did they get away with it? They got away with it because in these 300-room unit hotels, they then went off and sold units of 59 units each to very greedy owners who then, because they were under that 61-unit rule, didn't do anything because they weren't governed by it, by their claim, right? What is so stupid here is who's going to go back to those hotels now or go in the water on those beaches? They did it to themselves. If anything gave us an opportunity to rethink this, it was COVID-19. We have a chance to do a do-over, a reset. So now we have Thailand saying they're reopening Maya Beach, or Maya Bay, I should say. Let's hope that people are now adhering to the law. Now, one more thing I'm going to share with you because it's too funny. We're going to talk about it on my radio show this week as well with our good pal Gary Leff, who writes an amazing column online called viewfromthewing.com. I'm going to share with you a little background story before I get to the real story that's happening now. There was a fabulous story years ago. I say fabulous because it was so entertaining. It's actually quite a bad story, but for me, it was entertaining. There was a professor at Stanford. He was a model teacher, a model husband, a model father, and parent. Turns out, he was a coach of the Little League and all that kind of stuff. Turns out he was having an affair with another woman, I believe in Oregon. And with that other woman, he was also married. So he was married to two separate women at the same time, was the father of two separate sets of kids. He was also a Little League coach there. I mean, this guy has got a death wish. Speaking of death wish, this guy was on a plane every 3 days, right? He dies at the age of 51. And they go to his first wife, the one that, to tell her first the bad news that her husband died, and the worst news that he wasn't just her husband, and there was another woman. And both women show up at the funeral with both sets of kids, and they ask the first wife, "What's your reaction to this terrible news?" And I'm not making this up. At least she had a sense of humor. Her answer was, "Well, who gets to keep the mileage?" Okay, hold on to that thought, because in so many cases of divorce, there's custody of the dog, there's custody of the kids, there's custody of the assets. When you have to split them, when it gets down to one item, it's a death battle. It's who gets custody of the miles. Well, now we have a celebrity status added to this. There's a lawsuit happening right now, and Robert De Niro is in a battle with his former assistant, and he claims, among many other things of bad behavior and criminal behavior, he claims that she used his Delta SkyMiles card, American Express, and stole not only 7 million miles, but used them to buy stuff and to fly everywhere. So we're going to follow that story with Gary on the radio on Saturday. You got to tune in for this. It's hysterical, because it's, how do you value the miles? In a civil suit, right, you have to claim what things are worth. So how is Robert De Niro valuing the Robert De Niro frequent flyer miles on American Express? The answer is going to amuse you to no end. And Gary Leff will be reporting that story for us on Saturday. Now, let me scroll down and talk to you guys. Let's go to the top here. Question from Costa says, if you were to take out your crystal ball, where do you think travel, wherever you go, will look like post-COVID? It will look like you can travel wherever you want, as long as you understand you may get hit with a breakthrough case, and you're going to have to manage it just like the flu. Of course, for those of you who are not vaccinated, I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to sit next to you, behind you, or in front of you. And my guess is, between now and 6 months from now, this is my crystal ball. It goes back to the old days of smoking versus no smoking. For those people who insist on smoking, just like those people who insist on not getting vaccinated, it's going to become increasingly difficult for you to lead your usual lifestyle, to go to the supermarket, to go to the dry cleaner, to go to the park, to do anything. It may be led by the private sector. There may be a government regulation. We're going to see what happens in the courts in the next 2 weeks on the appeals mounted against the Biden administration's current vaccine mandate for companies of over 100 employees. But somewhere down the line, this is going to get resolved either in the courts or in the private sector. We're a litigious society. There'll probably be litigation again, but it will get resolved. And that will allow me and everybody else who's vaccinated to actually have freedom to travel. So that's my hope, and that's also my prediction. Alyssa Ainsworth, Happy New Year. Right back to you, darling. All right. Patrick wants to know any update about the Princess cruises from January 19th on the Grand Princess. Right now, Princess has not made any announcements. I have not seen them. It all depends on whether the ship will be allowed into Los Angeles. If it is, I'm assuming it's going to sail. We will check as close as we can to the 19th to let you know. But right now, the only news that we've seen so far is the 8 cancellations on Norwegian Cruise Line ships that was announced late yesterday. Hey, Happy New Year from Tisha. Thank you, Tisha. Margaret, your thoughts of traveling to Morocco this March? Need to cancel by January 11th. Okay, before I give you my thoughts on traveling to Morocco, perhaps a much more important question, Margaret. Who's telling you need to cancel? The airline, the hotel, the tour operator? Tell me more. Then we'll back into your question. Ben is saying Jumbo right back. All right. Lorraine says, Happy New Year. And don't be sorry that Leonard Airport post was cool. I thought it was kind of funny. Imagine all the people. Okay. Someone's going to Oaxaca next week. With all the COVID testing hysteria, would you delay or just have options lined up? Be willing to pay a little more for in-hotel testing? Look, the whole idea is if you've been vaccinated, if you've been boosted, go get the test. Play by the rules. Remember, you got to play by the rules coming home too. Most of the smart hotels, especially in the Mexican area and the Caribbean, are offering this almost as part of your package. It's a phone call. It's worth a phone call to negotiate that and make sure it's confirmed. Yeah, I'd still go to Mexico. Okay. Okay, Catherine's tuning in from her cottage in California. Okay. Oh, you're a travel advisor. Congratulations. Okay, I know you're working hard. All right. Carmen says hi. Robert says, Robert's in Tanzania. Well, Robert, get ready. April 18th, we'll have more information for everybody soon. Mark your calendars. That's the week we're premiering Royal Tour of Tanzania on PBS. We'll have more information as we get closer to that date to check your local stations. It'll also be available on Amazon Prime and Apple TV Plus. All right. Here we go. Willie says hello from Denver. Had a great time in New Orleans this week. What a fun city. Great food. Willie, you just discovered that? At least I didn't want to catch you walking down Bourbon Street with your Go Cup. That's all so passé, right? So much better food than the Go Cup cuisine on Bourbon Street, and you know it. At least you know it now. All right. Sonny says I booked with UA and had to cancel due to COVID. Refund was not an option. The option UA gave me is a credit. That's correct. Remember, these rules haven't changed. If the airline cancels your ticket or cancels your flight, you're entitled to a refund. If you cancel, at least you're no longer going to be penalized by those draconian ticket change fees. You'll get a credit into your account at United, which you can use on any other flight when you're ready to fly. So no surprises there, guys. Remember, it's a sort of a game of chicken to see who blinks first. If they cancel first, you have more rights. It's really as simple as that. All right. Jude again watching from Japan. Hello, Geraldine. Diane says, I recently purchased the Abbott's Binox Now COVID-19 at-home test. You test with a televisit, and it works for vaccinated people traveling back to the U.S. I'm sure it does, but you know what? There's a reason why I still like paper tickets. There's a reason why I don't check in using my phone. I want something in my hand, and I want to have a conversation with somebody. So I'm sure it works. I'm not going to tell you not to do it. I'm just going to tell you I don't do it that way. All right. Carmen says hello from Tampa. You got it, Carmen. And Katrina says hello from Alabama. All right. Here we go. Are the ports allowing passengers to disembark if COVID is found on the ship? Not every port is actually operating the same way. They have different rules. Aruba is going to be different from Grenada, and Grenada is going to be different from Mexico. And here's the crazy part: they change their minds every other day. That's why the cruise ships are substituting ports, because if they can't land, then you can't disembark. So and if it's a turnaround port, it's even worse, because then the people who booked the next leg of the cruise, they can't embark. It's a little nuts right now. Have a conversation with your travel agent. All right, Charles is saying hello from Tanzania, right back. Geraldine says hello from 10 degrees Chicago. Okay, that's the Chicago I know and love. It's about 10 degrees, I think, in Wisconsin today too. That's how I knew that, because I used to try to escape Wisconsin to get to the warmer climate, 3 degrees warmer in Chicago at this time of the year. Maridel says hello from Santa Barbara. Will I be going to Morocco mid-March? Why not? At this point, the answer is why not? How do I feel about going to a remote area of Mexico? About the same as I feel about going to a remote area of Queens. If you're vaccinated, if you're boosted, if you've done your homework, if you play by the rules, if you're practicing social distancing, if your doctor tells you you can go, and you also know what your plan B is, which is where's the nearest testing facility before I leave that remote part of Mexico, and where's the nearest hospital in case I need to get there, and do I have medical evacuation and repatriation insurance? By the way, That's not a COVID-related thing. That's a travel-related thing. You should all be carrying that. And you should also check with your insurance policy to see how the insurance companies are now beginning, thankfully, to address COVID, right? You'll see that Medevac insurance like MedJet Assist and Travel Guard are dealing with that. Allianz, they're starting to come up with a new policy. We'll be doing an interview about that very soon with them to find out all the changes in their policies. So check that out. Yvette says, greetings from, a remote part of Brooklyn. Hello, Yvette. And Robin is saying, Happy New Year from Williamsburg, Virginia. Okay. Alexander, sailing Virgin in 2 weeks and Silversea the end of February. Feeling safer about that than being in Texas right now. I'm not going to comment, but you made me laugh. Okay. Lindy asked a very important question. How safe are the excursions from a cruise ship? Remember when cruise ships first restarted their cruises? They were doing their shore excursions in a bubble where you can only go to pre-vetted locations. You can only go in your own bus. They had social distancing on the bus. So instead of 56 passengers, it was 28, et cetera, et cetera. Some cruise lines are still doing that. Others are letting you explore ports on your own. Again, every cruise ship has a different rule. Every port has a different regulation. So you're asking how safe? It's country by country, port by port. Okay. Richard says, we don't feel comfortable to go on our cruise this month due to increasing numbers. We're going to cancel our cruise until things get better. Will Carnival refund or reschedule? They're probably going to reschedule. Remember, they're not canceling, you are. And I'm going back to the numbers. I understand your concern. Remember, I'm not here trying to sell you anything. But if the caseload number on any cruise ship is less than 2%, count me in. I have a better chance of being hit by the Madison Avenue bus. Think about it. All right. All right. Mary saying hi from Southern Oregon. I'm jealous. The Rogue River. Okay. All right. All right. Beverly says, I'm planning on spending February in the Andalusia area. Thoughts on Spain changing requirements, fully vaccinated and boosted? What are they changing the requirements for? They're not saying you can't go. They're asking you for doing additional testing when you get there. So do it. Okay. Catherine says, I saw an article about farm stays in Ireland, but now I can't find it. Do you have any information that I can help? We do, as a matter of fact. And my assistant, Anthony, will get that to you. Just email him at anthony@petergreenberg.com or email me, peter@petergreenberg.com, and we will try to get that information to you. Okay. Robin says, question while flying, what are the thoughts on wearing the N95 and the face shield together? In my experience, nothing beats the N95 mask. It really takes out the particulates and the droplets. That's the key. If I wear the N95, I'm okay. I have never worn a face shield. Okay. The only time I've ever wanted to wear a face shield is when I get up early in the morning and look at the mirror, but that's for other reasons. But no, the N95 does the trick. Okay. Do I think that media sensationalizes the impact of travel through excessive warnings? No, here's what's happening. We have a responsibility in the media to report on what government agencies are doing. And if the CDC announces a recommendation that you shouldn't take a cruise, even if you're vaccinated, we have an obligation to report that. And we do. Now, do I think the CDC may be overreacting? Maybe. Based on past behavior? Maybe. Do I understand why they are? Yes. Do I accept it? I do. Am I going to make my decision based on that and other factors about whether or not I'm going to go on a cruise? I will. So I'm not blaming the media here. Remember, it's not about what makes good television. It's what we have to do to respond to what government agencies announce, because that is news. Now, whether or not we agree with it or not, whether we think it's stupid or not, whether we think it's far-reaching enough or not, that's not the issue. We have an obligation to report it. Now, what I have an obligation to do, and I've done it all my life, at least professionally, is to take that news and give you context, give you some perspective, make it hopefully relatable to your own life so that you can make an independent, intelligent decision about what you want to do. Don't go by what I'm telling you to do. Just use what I'm telling you and put it into context with your own experience, then make a decision. And please feel free to disagree with me. Any of you watching right now, if you think I'm off my rocker or not telling the truth, come on, let's go mano a mano. Let's talk about it, right? Not going to have to beat each other up, not mano a mano, but at least we can have a discussion and learn something from each other. Okay, Steven says, I'm living in Cozumel, hate cruise ships. Do you think they will stop coming because of COVID? Well, you have two separate issues here: your hatred of cruise ships and whether or not they're going to stop coming. Whether you hate them or not, Cozumel is one of the most popular ports of call for every cruise ship in this region, and I doubt they're going to stop coming. Sorry to give you the bad news for you. Okay, I know someone that during their divorce, the mileage is part of the settlement. I was stunned. Well, we're not stunned now, are we? Right? Custody of the kids, custody of the dog, custody of the real estate, and the mileage. It's always the last thing to be battled. Okay. Gina says, what's my preferred website for viewing current international travel safety levels? If it was up to Travel State Gov, the entire world would probably be red. Well, according to the U.S. State Department, the entire world is just about all red. There's even a red warning for Antarctica. Can somebody tell me why there's a level 4 warning about Antarctica? Have any of you seen any penguins frothing at the mouth or glowing in the dark? Please tell me. So if I'm looking for websites, I will look at the State Department website. I'm obligated to do so for the same reason why we report government announcements. But I also, and you've heard me say this before, go to the British Foreign Office website. Go to the Australian Foreign Office website. And the Canadians do a great job. Those three countries, I think, actually do individually a better job than our own State Department. And anybody at the State Department who hates me for saying it, too bad. That's how I've always felt. All right. The State Department practices a CYA approach to giving information. Does anybody need an interpretation of CYA? Huh? You get it? Okay. Now, and I understand why they do it. One of the reasons why they do it goes back to 1988, when they got caught with their pants way down by not informing the American public of a real threat against a U.S. airline leaving over the next 4 days from any European capital. And we all know what happened on December 21st, 1988. That's in spite of the fact the State Department had that credible information and chose not to share it. That was Pan Am 103 over Lockerbie. And ever since then, if an American tears a fingernail in Peru, they issue an advisory. I understand their motivation, but that doesn't mean they're doing the right thing, right? They're CYA, all right? So I don't CYA, because if I did CYA, I wouldn't be telling you this. So read the State Department advisories. Most of you never do anyway, but you should. I encourage you to. And then read the ones from the Brits, the Australians, and the Canadians. Put them all in. You have the spelling of context. And now you can make a reasonable and a reasoned decision about where you want to go. Okay. Marcy just came back to me agreeing with me on what I talked about the beaches in Thailand. By the way, I love Thailand. For those of you who may remember, I lived there for 25 years. Right on the water in Bangkok, right on the river. But I'm always disheartened by arrogance, greed, and stupidity. And boy, are they doing it in Thailand. Remember, what's the largest industry in the world? It's travel and tourism, on an average of 11% of global GDP. There are some countries and destinations, I'll give you like one, Turks and Caicos, it's 70% of their GDP. So why would you risk destroying all that to circumvent a regulation that's only designed to preserve your GDP? Nuts. Okay. All right, here we go. Sid wants to know, what type of travel evacuation insurance do you personally use? I personally use MedJet Assist. I've had it for about 20 years. And wait, hold on while I knock on wood. Never had to use it, but I'm glad I have the card. But Travel Guard does a good job, and many other companies. There's a new one on the market now called Kovac. Check them out as well. They're starting to really understand what the market needs and has to have. All right. And the premiums are not outrageous if you amortize them over a year. Okay. Okay, I hear you, Captain Acton. But Actually, it was the pollution. It was the pollution caused by the developers, and we're talking about Thailand, and it was the pollution caused by overcrowding and over tourism. What a great combination. Okay, Margaret came back and said the tour company says you have to cancel by January 11th. Is the tour company based in the U.S., Margaret? I need more details. Please let me know. Okay. Okay, here's one from Ben. I'm guiding a safari group in July to Tanzania and this February 10th. How does that sound? I wish I could go. How does that sound? Remember, I just came back. No problems. Gail wants to know, do I see in my crystal ball? I wish I had a crystal ball. Any news on rental car prices? I have seen Hertz renting cars in Vegas. I thought they closed. No, Hertz didn't close. Hertz never closed. Neither did Avis or National. None of those guys closed. They just didn't have any inventory. They're still getting inventory now because the car manufacturers were so delayed by the chip crisis and of course, the supply chain interruptions as well. I would say by the middle of March to the end of March, rental car prices are going to begin to come down. That doesn't mean they're going to stabilize, but they're going to come down. And hopefully by, I'm going to be kind now, September, they might go back to much more realistic, less expensive 2019 prices. It's going to take a while. Okay, Joy says, excuse me, Joy, our family was traveling on January 4th. Their ages 14 and 16. The flight was changed from nonstop to a connecting flight to go back home. Didn't feel comfortable because of their ages. Didn't want them to change flights. Can we get a refund from the airlines? It was AA. You forgot to tell me something, Joy. Did they take the flights? If they took the flights, they completed the contract of carriage. Which one is it? Or did you leave them somewhere? Let me know. Okay. Patty Ford just jumps in with New Orleans saying Galatoire's restaurant. I love Galatoire's. It's totally old school in New Orleans. And trust me when I tell you, you can't go in with just a shirt. You got to wear the jacket. And I made that mistake one day. And the only jacket they could loan me was a triple XL. I looked like Red Skelton for those of you who were old enough to remember him. All right. Nancy's going to make a reservation in France for April River Cruise. Okay, I do wish you luck. Any thoughts on the quarantine requirements for the Netherlands? When could it possibly change or be lifted? Honestly, any of those European countries that are imposing huge quarantines right now, they can do it because nobody's traveling anyway. So get around April when they start looking at their future bookings and their revenue from travel and tourism, you'll be surprised how fast that quarantine gets lifted. But right now, they don't lose very much by imposing that. And in situations like the Netherlands, where they have a spike in cases among, I might add, unvaccinated folks, they need to get a handle on it anyway. Evelyn says hello from snowy Colorado. Francine says, thank you for the advice to use my miles ASAP. I talked about that last week. Finally booked that first class trip to Europe. I've been saving all my miles for flying. She was able to get the tickets. Congratulations. Okay. Chef Rita, thank you for that nice note. Okay. Okay, I'm looking down here. Oh, Ben saying hello again from Tanzania. Madison, Wisconsin. Nice connection. All right. Asante. I'm hearing price gouging for COVID testing while traveling. My friend just got back from Aruba, spent over $500. Here's what you need to do, guys. Don't get tested at the airport. You're going to get hosed. It happened to me. I was going I was going through Portugal to get to Ireland on TAP. And I was not aware, you know why? Because I went online. Right? I made that mistake that I needed to get tested even if I was transiting the Lisbon airport, not entering the country. They wouldn't let me board the plane unless I got tested. The only time I could do it, and the only place I could do it with the airport when I learned it was the airport. That was $260 for a 2-minute rapid antigen test. What you need to do, what all of you need to do, is have a conversation with your hotel where you're going to find out what they're providing in terms of testing, in many cases free testing, as an enticement for you to go there in the first place. Don't wait till you get there to find out that kind of bad news. I learned my lesson at SFO. You understand? Okay. Can I buy trip insurance to cover COVID-related delays? The answer is yes, you can. Listen to our radio show next week. We'll have those answers for you. Okay, Adrian says, I'm going to Italy in May for 4 weeks. One will be a tour of Sicily, the rest driving throughout the mainland. Will things ease up by then? I sure hope so. And I didn't have my crystal ball. Sherry says, hi from Massachusetts. Okay. Hey, Eddie May, my old buddy from NBC. Happy New Year. Booked on Mediterranean cruise July 21st. And do you think it'll happen in July? I do. I actually do. Okay. Karen says, hi from sunny Los Angeles. I run our safari company here. We've got clients booked to many countries in Africa for 2022, from Tanzania to South Africa. There's huge pent-up demand. There is. But remember what just happened about 2 weeks ago, right after the United States banned citizens from 8 countries in Africa from coming here. What did they do on New Year's Eve? They relaxed the ban. They can come. Why? Because the variant that they had first reported in Africa turned out to be mild and lasting for 2 to 3 days for people who were vaccinated. You got to be vaccinated to come anyway. That's what's going on here. Take a deep breath, folks. Cross your fingers. The hope is this is going to be mild. We'll manage it. Okay. All right, here we go. I understand what you're saying, Michelle, about the red warning for Antarctica, that anybody coming from anywhere could possibly bring with them the COVID. Yes, however, the people who are going to Antarctica are going by cruise ship. They have to be tested before they get on the ship, and they get tested at least twice while they're on the ship before they even get to Antarctica. I think it's okay. And they have to be vaccinated. Okay. Now, Patty says, for 25 years, you lived in Thailand? Well, I had a house there, yes. I built it in 1990. It was finished in 1992. I sold it about 2 or 3 years ago, right on the river. Best thing I ever did. I loved it. Okay. Gail says, we finally got our global entry interview yesterday at JFK. It was the closest office accepting appointments. We live outside of Philadelphia. It took us 2 hours and 3 trains to get there for a 10-minute meeting, but it's done now. Okay, Gail. All right. Okay. So, Joy, you said you didn't take the flight with your kids because of their ages. So you never even got on the plane to begin with. Is that what you're saying? Then email me to peter@petergreenberg.com and let's see what we can do with the airline. Okay? As long as you didn't use any or part of that ticket, you might have a chance here of getting some money back. Okay. Margaret says that the tour company is based out of the U.S. We are all vaxxed and boosted, have insurance. State Department listed at level 4. I believe the tour company will do it all it can to keep us safe. And it's a small tour of 24 folks, more concerned about getting stuck in Morocco. Well, everybody's concerned about getting stuck, right? That's our subtext here. I want to go somewhere, but I'm so worried about getting stuck and not getting home. Find out about the travel insurance you can get now that will cover you for that. And as long as you are vaccinated and boosted, your doctor says you can go, you're playing by the rules. The tour company is practicing all the protocols. There's one more thing you have to have, is a conversation with them confirmed in writing as to what your rights are if the tour company cancels, right? Not if you cancel, if they cancel. All right. Let's go to, I think it's time to go to one final thing before we get to the photo of the week. And that is the photo of me. Where is it? There it is. For reasons I didn't even know this website existed. It's called Room Rater. And they judge you based on the books you have behind you, which I haven't really changed. So, and then they actually got even deeper into it to look at every single book I was reading, and they thought I did okay. So I guess thanks for that. What I really should do is mix them up next week to see if anybody notices. I'll let you know, or maybe not. All right, speaking of photos, let's go to our photo of the week. There it is. Anybody know where that is? You should know. It should be an easy one for you. It was taken by Diane Nakano, and she took this from the 125th floor. Can't get much higher, of the Burj Khalifa in the UAE. Pretty cool. That's one crazy elevator ride, by the way. I've done it. So Diane, thank you for that. Love it on a clear day. And if you've got a photo of the week you want to share, please do it. Just email me to peter@petergreenberg.com. If we like it, it's going to post. And she came back within that 72-hour, 3-day COVID testing rules before they changed it. And she made it. And there you go. Thank you, Diane. Now let's go to some of your questions that you sent in. From Sandy, Hertz charges 5% of your total rental car purchase to speak with a person. I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware of that at all. I mean, look, if you want to book online to Hertz, go ahead. But make sure you get the phone number of the franchisee location where you're picking up your car. Remember, you've already made your reservation. You've already paid for it. Now get on the phone and have a conversation with them to confirm everything that's in your email and to get their first and last name and then confirm it with them by email. That's what I'm talking about. Okay? Carol says, I enjoy traveling, but now I depend on a rollator to help me walk from now on. How can I make sure it is not put into baggage area? Carol, I have to tell you, that's a very important question and a story we're going to be covering. How many wheelchair-assisted folks have their wheelchairs or motorized vehicles damaged or destroyed by the airlines? And the way the airlines are configuring their planes, it is it is physically impossible to wheel down an aisle. You can't do it. And there's so many other variables here in which the airlines, because they want to make as much revenue as they can by packing as many seats as they can on the plane, are not addressing 19% of the American audience that has a disability of one kind or another. So watch our website. That's petergreenberg.com. We're going to be doing a story on that, and I'll get back to you on that. Linda, you say you wouldn't do 2 countries in one trip due to COVID testing requirements. No, I didn't say that. I said it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do it, and you need to have a conversation with a travel agent or advisor to make sure you're playing by the existing rules the day that you're going. That's how things are changing. Okay? You're saying I was planning a 2-week trip to Egypt with a 5-night add-on to Jordan. Oh, that's a piece of cake. Piece of cake. You're not going to have a problem. Okay? Lisa says we have a 4-day cruise in May. What do you foresee for the cruising future? Ships are going to be sailing. They're sailing now. Okay. Tessa Bui, I think I got the name right. Have I ever been to Uganda? Yes, I have, many times, to both Entebbe and a few other locations like Kampala, and loved it. There's a reason why Winston Churchill called Uganda the Pearl of Africa, right? I mean, how about Class 5 rapids? I mean, crazy stuff out there and worth it every time. Here's one from Joy. If your flight is canceled or delayed, can you get a refund? Again, 2 separate issues here. If they cancel your flight, you get a refund. If you cancel it, you don't. Then, if they delay your flight to the point where you can't go, let's be reasonable here, anything more than 2 hours, you should get a refund. Especially if you're doing a connecting flight and you're going to miss that one as well, right? Or if the airline, because of delays, says, oh, okay, we booked you on another flight at another time, they have effectively canceled your first flight. So if you want the refund, you're entitled to it. Okay? What is the best time to book a flight from San Francisco to New York? Today. I just got finished telling you about the buyer's market out there. $108 flights from the West Coast to the East Coast. You're never going to beat that. Do it now. Okay. He's torn between Costa Rica and Belize. What do I think? I can't give you an answer because you haven't given me enough information. What do you want to do there? How many days do you want to spend? What's your budget? What's your level of physical activity? Stuff I need to know. Tim, what is happening in France with the new variant? Okay. We're monitoring that. France is now changing the rules every day. Of course, there were rules last week about whether or not British passengers could come to France. That's now being a little bit relaxed. We'll see. But I can't give you a one-dimensional answer here because it's changing so rapidly. But for the moment, I can tell you, as an American with an American passport, vaccinated, boom, you can go. Okay, Jessica says, saw that the Sundance Film Festival is canceled in person. Are mountain towns the hardest hit? A lot of towns are hard hit. I mean, Salt Lake City is going to get hard hit because of Sundance, right? Because that's how you get to Sundance. I'm probably going to go, not for the film festival, but what a great time to go to Sundance. No one else will be there. Talk about social distancing, right? Okay. And Evan says, I have a trip to Aruba planned in a few weeks and saw that the CDC is advising against travel there. Will I be refunded because they made that announcement? Refunded by who? I need more details, guys. By the airline, by the hotel, by the tour operator? Let me know more and I'll help you out. Before we run out of time, a couple of housekeeping notes. Again, radio show this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Eye on Travel. Check your local listings or go right on our website, petergreenberg.com. We stream it live from 10:05 a.m. Eastern all the way through the show. Of course, you can still see our shows on PBS, Hidden Poland, Hidden Turkey. If you can't find them there, available on Amazon Prime and Apple TV Plus. And a lot more information coming up on our next big special, Tanzania, the Royal Tour, which will be premiering in April. That's only 3 months away. So thank you for joining me today. We'll see you next week. Stay safe. Remember, keep having conversations. Talk to people. Talk to people who know what they're talking about because the rules are changing. They're making the rules on an Etch-a-Sketch machine. That's how crazy it is. But I promise you, as we realize that this is a virus we can manage, then the real question is, how fast can we manage it? How sensitively can we manage it? How well can we manage it? And finally, how intelligently can we manage it? So stay safe. If you know somebody who's not vaccinated, have a conversation with them too. I'll see you next week.